All right, dudes. We are back with another 53 Presents. This time we're going into our next segment of videos. We're doing 4 segments coming up outlining the divisions that we see. So we're going to break them down, AFC and NFC. Today for you, we have the AFC North and the NFC North. Obviously, we decided to start here because the NFC North is our home. We got a Bears fan and a Vikings fan, of course. We've broken that down before. Just a little bit about what we've done the last couple of weeks during this quarantine, during this shutdown. We've got about a video a week pumping out. We were doing some draft recaps. Both Jason and myself broke down individually the drafts for our favorite teams, the Vikings and the Bears. We did a schedule breakdown with a special guest, Alex Coles. He came on and did a breakdown of the Vikings schedule week by week. So go check those out on this same channel. They'll be up there for you. And we're excited to break down the divisions and kind of shape up what's going to be maybe a playoff predictions at the end of it all, at the end of these 4 videos. We're going to give you a little bit of a record prediction. Obviously, it's not rooted in anything much than speculation at this point, and Jason's going to help us out with that. But introducing my counterpart here, Jason is with us again. Jason, how are we doing today?
Dude, Monday. It's football, man. Life cannot be better without talking football. So, light weekend was good. Today was good. How are you doing?
Dude, I can't complain. Yeah, Monday, May 18th. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to be back to normal eventually. Football is going to happen, whether it's with fans or without fans. So that's how I feel about it. If it's, a third of the stadium's full to begin the season, awesome. But hopefully by the Super Bowl, we can fill up those stadiums. Who knows? It's all speculation at this point. But we're excited to kind of break down, starting with the NFC North. But before we do that, we're going to do our first introductory segment that we like to do, that we started doing, called The 5. The 5 is the tag for our rapid fire questions that Jason has for me today. Since there's no huge topic to talk about, I think we're just going to make this a more random rapid fire questions than anything. These are questions that I haven't seen yet, and Jason has cooked up, and he's excited to get my answers. So let's do it. Here's the 5.
Yeah, people, we got a huge list rolling here. We're going to go through a couple of them week by week. So anything off the wall. I was thinking of them late last night. I was thinking of them on Friday night when I had a couple of beers. So who knows? Luke, of the 5, number 1, who would win in a fight? Selena Gomez or Demi Lovato?
Demi Lovato, easy. No problem. You see those thighs, dude? Demi Lovato's a beast. And she's been through some shit.
All about it. I mean, yeah, you got thick little, she's gonna hang it, but I think Selena Gomez has got a little bit of that crazy in her though. You can't underestimate that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule her out, but I think Demi Lovato, if the card showed in Vegas, she's gonna be the favorite. I see her winning in a knockout. I'm taking my girl Demi.
All right, okay. So what was your first video game and or console that drew you into the life of video games?
That's a great question. Right? I had an older brother, so a lot of my video game taste to begin with and growing up was because of him. My very first would probably be like Diddy Kong Racing. It was the it was the the alternative to Mario Kart Racing and this was on N64. It was an amazing game, super competitive at the babysitter's house. That got me into it, but then really games that solidified it for me are probably like Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That was a game that really took me over the edge as far as how fun it could be, not only playing with multiplayers, but playing by yourself and achieving objectives and things. And they're coming out with a remastered version in the fall, which is going to be super cool to check out. And then obviously Madden. I've been playing Madden for 20 years. So it's hard not to say Madden or any of the NFL or NBA street games as well.
Dude, the street games were prime. I was a Game Boy Color Pokemon guy. That's what opened the wormhole over here.
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't grow up with a Game Boy, so that was kind of tough for me. It's hard not to mention the Backyard series as well. That was probably number 1, actually.
Pablo.
I would go over to my cousin Mikey D's house and play a lot of backyard baseball over there, backyard football with the used licks. I mean, we even got online like later in the backyard series, like backyard 2002. You could go online and play people on dial-up internet and play against other people online, and we would do that. As like
That's
10
crazy.
It was amazing.
That's crazy. Well, dude, that's a great topic. We could probably make an old podcast about that. So
Oh
we'll
shit!
skip to number 3. Star Wars. What color lightsaber would you want?
That's actually crazy. So I broadcast on Twitch, and I just started playing the new Star Wars game, Star Wars Fallen Revenge, on there. I'm only like 2 hours into it, but right away you get a lightsaber, and they just give you a stock color. I think it was blue. But once you get to like the first checkpoint, you get to customize it, and there's only a minimal amount of colors to choose from. I think it was like 4 or 5 colors, but at that time I chose like that golden yellow hueish color that Ray ends up deciding
That's rare.
for hers, and that's like the Skywalker color, which I think is super cool. But I would be like a Mace Windu. I got to go purple. It's my favorite color, obviously because I'm a Viking fan, but it's been my color forever. I think I would be a purple lightsaber guy.
Gotta have it. Yeah, I see myself going blue or red, but that's something another day.
Nothing wrong with the classics.
You got to. I mean, you grow up dreaming of it and living with it. So, beer, Budweiser or Miller?
Oh my God. Am I thinking like their whole brand, or just like Budweiser and Bud Light?
Yeah, get a beer. So you can
Miller,
go Budweiser, Bud Light, all the way down their rabbit hole, or you can go Miller, MGD, all the way down theirs. If you had a beer and you reach into a cooler, would you rather it be a Budweiser or a Budweiser offshoot, or a Miller or Miller offshoot?
Gotcha. Without being able to like research it, I would still go Budweiser. I throw in a Bud Heavy into my repertoire every once in a while, but Bud Light's so nice, man. I mean, I don't know. There's a month that I've gone without drinking a Bud Light. Bud Light in an aluminum can. I'm sure you'll see them on this podcast eventually. That's my shit right there. So I gotta go Bud Light, and I like Bud Seltzers right now. I'm drinking a lot of Bud Seltzers. It's nice outside here in Raleigh. It was 80 degrees over the weekend. Had a case of Bud Seltzers,
Got to that Post Malone. Yeah, I agree with you. I am Bud Light Lime, Bud Seltzer. Love the Bud Light, Wood Light commercials going up. So, those were great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last one before we move on to talking some football. Which do you prefer and why? Vine or TikTok?
Vine or TikTok? Well, to give you some background, I was definitely on the back end of Vine. Vine got super famous, and I kind of hopped in late on the Vine thing and loved it, but it was super limited. I mean, I think you could only make 6-second videos, and then later in its life, they might have increased it to like 12.
Yeah.
Where TikTok, you can make up to 60-second videos. TikTok is obviously known for its like dance videos to certain songs, which is cool, and that's what got it super famous and super big. But now there's like so many like informative ones and conspiracy ones and just like cool random facts ones that I follow. And you can just go down the rabbit hole of all these different genres of TikToks that aren't 16-year-olds dancing. And so I would have to go TikTok. I think TikTok, I laugh out loud, literally laugh out loud by myself to TikTok probably every day. Because people are so creative and they come up with this awesome stuff, and they're really good with video editing and just making a 60-second spot a great story. And people tell them, stories about their lives in multiple parts, or how-tos and this and that. I mean, I love TikTok. It's definitely my favorite app. I would say I'm addicted, especially during quarantine. Before quarantine, maybe it was an hour a day. Now it's peaking 2 hours, probably, maybe even more than that. If I can't sleep, I'm on TikTok all night, which is probably not good. But I love me some TikTok.
Well, I'll just ask China for your social then, if they ever need it.
Oh, yeah, I'm done, man. They got all my shit.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I like it. I haven't been too involved with TikTok, but the kids are up into.
Don't
I
do
can
it.
appreciate. I like Vine, and I can appreciate the type of thought it takes to make something funny in such a condensed version. But I can definitely see the interest and quality in something that is longer and more thought out. So, back
Right.
and forth. I've been busy, so might have to give it a second look. So, awesome five. I got those marked. We won't ask them again. I got time. When we log off tonight, I'm going to keep going, see how today's conversation goes. So,
Just
love
keep
that
rolling
segment. We're
with
going to
them.
keep it rolling.
It's
Let's
pretty
talk some
good.
football. Take it away, bud.
Well, yeah, just a word of advice. Don't download TikTok because it will be another big time waster for you. But if you end up doing,
Careful.
yeah, if you end up downloading TikTok, I would say right away put a restriction on it in the settings. In your Apple settings, you can restrict apps to like an hour a day or whatever, and that helped me a ton. Because next thing you know, I've been on TikTok for a straight hour, and then I get the notification, "Hey man, maybe it's time to get off TikTok." Um, anyway, enough of that. Fun social media talk for the day. We're going to go right into the NFC North, our favorite division, the black and blue division, Monsters of the Midway, shit like that. Packers are obviously a storied franchise here. Um, we're going to break it down from the worst record to the best record in 2019. That's just kind of the easiest way to do it, so there's no biases. So that leaves us off with the Detroit Lions, who finished last year 3-12-1. I came up with a quote for every team that doesn't really mean shit, but just to get our conversation started a little bit. But my quote for the Lions is they made some key defensive adds in the offseason. If Stafford is healthy, do they finally add up to wins?
Well, I'm getting a phone call now. Actually, I just got a text, and it is confirmed. The Detroit Lions still suck. So I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about. They lost Darius Slade. They brought in Okuda. They brought in Desmond Trufant. So it looks good on paper. But, I don't think Patricia is doing a good job of flipping this culture. I just don't see a lot of potential. I think Stafford's a hack. He puts up numbers, and he's got great receivers on the outside, but I don't think he can keep up with what the other three teams in the division have, let alone the other half of the division or the conference, excuse me. So I'm not too high on them, and I'm trying to be as non-biased on the Lions as possible. I don't see a whole lot of bright spots. What are you thinking?
Well, I agree with you. I think it really comes down to if they were in a different division, would they have a different record? And my answer is probably yes. I think playing against the Bears, Vikings, and Packers 6 games in a season. I mean, if you go over in your own division, now your best record you can get is 10-6, and that's
Right.
what's been happening to the Lions a lot lately. So that's a super tough thing for them to overcome. I was intrigued by the additions of Trey Flowers and Jamie Collins just to get Matt Patricia's guys from New England over to Detroit.
Yeah.
But does it really move the needle for me? Not really. I think the Desmond Trufant ad kind of does. The culmination of the three of those and Jeff Okuda definitely makes their defense respectable. I don't think it makes them good by any means, but at least on paper they look all right. I think it's a fighting year for Matt Patricia, which is sad. I don't like the current culture of coaches getting fired because the team sucks. But Matt
Yeah.
Patricia is going to go into his third year here, and if he's a sub 500 again, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him the boot.
I hear you there, and it's something too. Like, so I think the same conversation you have around coaching and hires and expectations applies no matter where you are. If it's college, if it's pro, if it's high school, you should be able to get one full recruiting class, and it's 4 years, maybe a fifth. Um, because not only are you trying to attract different and new types of player and talent, but you're also building a culture, and that doesn't happen in a year. You've got a lot of guys that are in transition. You've got coaching staff guys that are used to a certain way. And when you're really trying to build a culture, especially in a city that's so used to underperforming, we'll say it nicely,
Right.
it's really hard to flip that. So I think Matt Patricia had the deck stacked against him to start. I think everybody knew that. Tough road to hoe, I didn't think he was the guy for the job. I love to give the Patriots coaching staff the benefit of the doubt when they leave, but there's some where you just look like, what is this guy doing? Yeah, sure, he's a rocket scientist, but that's good for X's and O's. It's not so great for culture, and you can see it's not really panning out, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah, I think everything there kind of adds up for what the Detroit Lions are going to look like for 2020. Um, Positive things if I were a Lion fan, you're drafting DeAndre Swift. Got to be happy about that to solidify maybe a run game. And then your younger linemen are still all right. You got Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker there to build around. And if Matt Stafford can stay healthy, like he said, he's going to put up big numbers with Kenny Golladay and the receiving core. But in the end, if you can't beat your division rivals, you're not going to go that far. So we'll ask for your prediction here in the Lions outlook.
They finished last year with 3-12-1. I've got them about the same. All of my numbers are kind of plus or minus a one game. Looking at the schedule, I give them 4 wins, a healthy 4 wins at best. I mean, they got our division, the NFC North, has got a tough schedule this year, playing a lot of teams with potential. So 4-12.
4-12. Yeah, I don't think you're too far off there. I see a similar output by them. I think they're in a lot of close games, but aren't able to get over the top to win them. And unfortunately, I think Matt Patricia might see the boot, which it really shouldn't be like that. But, I mean, I'm not the only one talking about that. I know it's been national media news when his name ever gets brought up. But we'll go to the second team in the division compared to last year's stats, and that was the 8-8 Chicago Bears. My little quote for them is, who was the guy week 1 and who was the guy in week 8? That is obviously referring to the quarterback position and kind of a linchpin for the team, possibly, or at least how Bears fans might see it. So break down your Bears here and see what they can do in 2020.
Bears. So they finished 8-8. I've got them a game or two better because you think about it, that their quarterback play was trash. And if you can even get average quarterback play, I think that's an easy 2 wins, just looking at how they played last year. A lot of games lost by a point or two. A lot of games lost late to where if you can, just not turn the ball over or get an extra touchdown from a field goal, I think that's easy to pick up some extra wins there. Granted, I do think the schedule this year is a little bit tougher, but the rest of the division's facing that same schedule as well. I think Mitch is going to be week 1. I really do, just with camaraderie and chemistry. Week 8, I think it's going to be a short leash. So if obviously this is a situation where it could be win-win. If Mitch plays great, then he keeps playing, and that's exactly what he was supposed to do. If he doesn't play well, then we've got the backup, the most expensive backup in the league, the backup plan, and Nick Foles, who is proven he can be that 500 or more quarterback starting and get hot when he needs to. So not trying to get too high on my team, but we do have a lot of guys returning from injury as well. We've got Akeem Hicks. We've got both our inside linebackers coming back. So the addition of Robert Quinn as well. So hopefully that can reinvigorate the defensive prowess of getting after the quarterback. So I got 9-10 wins here. 9.5 is probably my over-under.
It sounds like you're pretty optimistic about the team. I won't speculate too much just because this is your team, and instead I'll ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
This is kind of a same question, but a 2-part question. Elaborate on, is there anything to hang your hat on here outside of Khalil Mack? Are there names on this team that we don't know nationally that we should know that don't get the light because your team was mediocre in the last couple of years?
Sure. I mean, Akeem Hicks, if healthy, is going to be the guy that everybody thinks about. He's a Pro Bowler the year before last. He missed 11 games last season. Real push in the middle that really gave Mack his real, that first-year phenomena. His first game, he had all those turnovers and sacks and the touchdown against the Packers. Kyle Fuller, perennial Pro Bowler the last couple of years, really coming into his own. Highest paid safety in the league, rightfully so, Eddie Jackson. I think that Roquan Smith, if he can stay healthy, he tore his pec halfway through the year last year. He's all over the field. He's a speed guy. He's shown he can get some sacks. He can rip the ball out. There's a reason that these guys have been top 5 defenses the last couple of years. So, not to hang your hat on that, but that definitely keeps you in games, which is kind of going back to my previous point of average quarterback play as opposed to the subpar we've had can win you a game or two more than what we've been doing.
Well, yeah, I think this is the second point I have here is kind of the Bears allowed the least amount of points in the division, but they also scored the least in the division out of their 16 games last season. So you're kind of touching on that. I think the defense either does what they did last year, a little better play at the quarterback position, obviously see maybe a couple more wins because of that. And then really, like the question here for me is like, are they hogtied at the quarterback position? And is that the only thing that they can, outside of injuries, of course, get better at to make them a 10-win team, to make them a playoff team? And from what it sounds like from you, it sounds like that's kind of the gist as far as a Bears fan goes.
Well, I'll raise you one more because the one thing we didn't do last year was run the ball. We tried, and the thing that really irks me is Matt Nagy said they didn't bring me in here to call plays and run the I formation. But guess what? That's when we had the highest yards per carry attempt. I mean, we were 22 last year. We were 29th in rushing, and 2 years ago we were 27th. So obviously, unfortunately, we lost Kyle Long to injury and retirement, but we got a whole new offensive staff from coordinator, quarterbacks coach, O-line coach. I don't recall tight end coach, but the offensive line actually is going to be the bigger key to that because, why do you think the quarterback play doesn't do well? His two best friends weren't there. There was no run game and there was no tight end all season. So I feel if those, a good offensive line raises all ships, in my opinion. Right. Not more so, but about the same as good quarterback play. So if you give them a half a second more to make a good decision, even without those other players, I feel that's just another couple points a game, 2 points a game maybe for an efficiency, or you get an extra first down, which leads to a field goal, something like that. Whether it's the micromanagement or the minutia of the game, it does add up over a season.
All right. So we'll jot you down, Tosh, as a 9-10 win guy for the Bears. I think I'm comfortable with that as well. I see them being a mediocre team overall, and if you win some games, there's no reason why they couldn't get 10 wins. They're definitely a team that the Vikings don't want to see. We've been playing them historically pretty bad the last couple of years. Definitely playing in Soldier Field, and then they came and beat us in US Bank as well. So we'll see what it is. Nagy's in his third year there. I don't think he's on the hot seat. Maybe a Bears fan sees that a little differently. But we'll move on to the next team. So the team that finished second in the division is my Minnesota Vikings. They were 10-6 last year with a wild card berth into the playoffs. Obviously known for beating the Saints once again on a last-second play and getting that one win in the playoffs, and then kind of getting ran over by the San Francisco 49ers in the next week. My quote here is, can they pull it all together? It seems like 1 week our defense is playing well and 1 week our offense is playing well, but never like in tandem for multiple weeks. So can the Vikings pull it all together and actually be the team that maybe they are on paper?
I think pull it all together would be stellar. I think that's, 12, 13 wins. I think that's an obvious first-round bye that's happening. That would be pulling all together. I see them at a 10-win team. I see them taking the division with the Bears in the wild card spot there because I don't give a whole lot of credence to new coaching staffs, overhauls, or new head coaches. And I liked a lot of what Stefanski did. I know that the Kubiaks are still there, so they're going to do a lot of that zone play action. But, you lose Stephon Diggs. Rudolph is a year older. I feel like they can build on the offensive line. And can Cook stay healthy? It's going to be one of those things. I feel like Cousins got a little bit of that stigma off his back. Obviously, he's going to have to prove it more in the playoffs to get it, I think, and in prime time, to be honest, to get it off his back completely. But I think the pieces are there. I think, in the offseason and in the draft, obviously they lost a lot of guys on D, and they got a lot younger. So it's kind of a plus minus. But I see them with a slow start just because they're going to be so young and so new on defense. But thinking that they'll have a chance to gel, I think that Zimmer's going to have them, especially on defense, in a position where they're going to simplify things and they're going to want the young guys playing fast as opposed to overthinking and over scheming things.
I think that's
So
fair.
10 wins.
For 10 wins. It sounds like with the new playoff system would put us in the playoffs once again.
Yes.
Just touching
Division
on
winner.
a couple
Division winner.
Division winner. That's right. That's a precursor to what we're going to talk about with the Packers. I guess they're falling off in Jason's mind. But a couple things I want to touch about that you brought up. But yeah, Gary Kubiak comes in as our offensive coordinator. We're now comfortable knowing that he's going to be running our offense and not telling Stefanski how to run an offense. I think that's a big concern, I would say, for Vikings fans. They're like, why don't we have just a singular voice on offense? Now Kubiak comes in with the pedigree that he has, obviously multiple Super Bowl champion winner as a player and a coach. He's our offensive coordinator. Zimmer trusts him 100%. I don't think Zimmer's going to impede on any of his play calls, which happened in the last 2 years. So Zimmer just focused on the defense. Kubiak focused on the offense. I would say that means a bigger role to fill for a second-year tight end, Irv Smith, playing in more of a 2 tight end, run-the-ball system in the zone running scheme. We're getting really creative with our 2 wide receivers, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. And the thing that excites me the most about Gary Kubiak, we've talked about it before, me being a Texans fan, when he was with the Texans in 2009, Matt Schaub led the league in passing with 4,700 some odd yards. And then in 2010, Arian Foster led the league in rushing with like 1,600 yards. So that just goes to show you how balanced he is and how dominant he can be in both sides of an offensive attack. So I really see us being set up in the similar version that he had in 2009, 2010. The team is very much the same with a better defense. And obviously the Texans didn't go on to win a Super Bowl or anything. But that was the first years that they made the playoffs as a franchise and ended up winning a game in the playoffs in 2010. So super excited about that. Really hate our schedule. We broke it down earlier. Alex and I kind of broke it down. We have to play a primetime game, Sunday night game in Seattle, which is terrible. We have probably the most exciting game in the NFC of the season is playing the Saints on a Friday night or Friday evening. Christmas.
Yeah.
So, the last couple times we play the Saints, they've ended in controversy. They ended in big plays. It's going to be a crazy game. That's going to mean a lot in the NFC, I think. I mean, both those teams are going to be fighting for playoff spots, and that game might just put them into a really nice, comfy spot going into week 15 and 16 after that, or 16 and 17 after that. But in the end, I'm comfortable with 10 wins. With Alex, I actually was a little more critical. I said we were going to be 9-7, knowing that we haven't got over the hump and went 2-0. We didn't go 2-0 against the Packers or the Bears last year, and I feel that's the same again this year. So if we don't go 2-0 against either one of those, obviously, hopefully go 2-0 against the Lions this year. That's going to set us up for like a 9-win season is how I see it. And, fingers crossed we make the playoffs there. But that's kind of a little rundown of them and how I see them.
Let me follow up with a couple of questions about your team now.
Let's do it.
One, let's talk about, so you mentioned a couple of great stats talking about the Kubiak Texans days with Schaub and Arian Foster. I think you've got very similar style plays, Schaub and Cousins. Foster and Cook's a little bit more downhill. Foster's a little bit more of a one cut or cutback. But my question is really around the timing of everything in that 2009, 2010, that was already 10, 11 years ago. We've seen Kubiak's offense evolve a bit when he was with Denver. That was interesting. But do you think it's really going to be something where this is still going to be able to dominate the league given the vast style differences, what we've seen with the Ravens last year with the power run and what the Kansas City Chiefs have been able to do the last couple of years, being both ends of the spectrum? Do you really think something more middle ground, play action type of play, zone running as opposed to power is going to pay off?
Yeah, I think if if there's a team that you could compare it to in the last like 3-4 years, it would be the Rams team when they made the run to the Super Bowl. I mean, it was the high powered offense. They might have set a record for most points in a season, maybe at least by an NFC team. Either way, they were
close,
up.
yeah.
They were up there, and by the numbers, it looks like they were really run and gun and on the move. But a lot of the stuff that they did was two tight ends, giving the ball to Gurley and letting him make decisions, and then hitting guys deep because of the run. And you're going to see a lot of that here. A lot of two tight ends, protect the quarterback and let him throw the ball. I think we're going to do a lot of what you saw there and what Sean McVay did in his first 2 years as the Rams. And they're still doing. The Rams were unfortunate and lost a couple close games, which led them to a 9-7 season.
Yeah, they like a lot of the slot tight, the double tights. You know, they got the deuce wing, that type of thing. It's interesting. It's not common.
It's the versatility at our wide receiver position is going to give us that opportunity. And obviously the versatility that the Rams had with Brandon Cooks, and they had Cooper Kupp was a first-year rookie there, and then they had Robert Woods. I don't think our receiving core is necessarily that good, but maybe in the future it is. And our tight ends are just as good as their tight ends. So why not? That's who I would say. Obviously, it all revolves around Dalvin Cook and being able to move the ball on the ground and in our screen game. So yeah, I think it could definitely work. I don't want to see us doing that like shotgun style stuff. I don't think Kirk's comfortable that much in shotgun. He's proved that he's a play action downfield guy, and that's what we gotta work towards.
Yeah, good point. And I would argue too that you guys may have a slightly upper hand on the Rams as far as tight end quality, but we'll see how production goes. My second and final question for you revolves around the defense. So Zimmer, you know, being where he's been with the Bengals, the dominant defenses, and now with the Vikings, a lot of cover two, a lot of simplicity to it. I mean, a couple of stunts in the D line, but a lot of it's, you know, rush for cover, get the pressure. With that, you know, we've had a lot of fire sale on defenses last offseason, a lot of guys leaving, reliance on some younger guys, be it draft picks or the defensive end. It had Digabo, right? It had Fetty.
Yeah.
So with those guys, do you feel that Zimmer is going to make those guys play within his system, or knowing between that and a lot of the secondary exchanges, is he going to adapt to more man-to-man as opposed to the solid cover two we're used to?
No, I think he drafted the players that he wants for a reason, or he drafted the players because he wanted them for a reason, and it's because he thinks that he can play in his scheme and his defense. I don't see our defense coming out and surprising anybody as far as our scheme goes. I think it's plug and play with whoever we got. Our corners were our weak point last year, and they're gone. They're going to be a weak point again this year. There's no difference there. But the nice thing is we just locked up Anthony Harris today. He signed his franchise tender. So good safety play can cover up for kind of less than adequate cornerback play, which I think, quite honestly, we're going to see at the beginning of the year just because these guys haven't played in the NFL before. They don't see the speed that they see in college. It's going to be a little tough for them to adapt to, but I'm super comfortable with what we got. I think our pass rush is going to be just fine. We lose Everson Griffin, of course. Michael Pierce in the middle is an ad from the Ravens, who's going to be huge to stuff the run, which obviously San Fran and the Green Bay Packers ran all over us. So Michael Pierce, they nicknamed him the Juggernaut, I guess. He's had that name since like high school or something. So I'm happy to have him on the team. And I'm not ruling out Everson Griffin coming back. It really sounds like that's a possibility. I'm not saying he's a game changer, but he was a 10-sack guy last year. And if we're going to rotate DNs and rotate our whole defense, really, we might be rotating corners. I think there's really no setback here on defense. The reliability that we had in Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes is gone, which is sad, but now there's some leeway for our outside guys to make plays and be comfortable in the system, knowing that they're just new to it, and you know they don't get that harsh criticism that Xavier Rhodes got, which is kind of nice for them. You know, clean slate on the outside. I think our defense is just fine. The defense is led by three guys. It's Harrison Smith, it's Anthony Barr, it's Eric Kendricks. Those guys lead the defense, and everybody else just makes plays around them. You know, Anthony Harris had 6 interceptions last year. That was tied for the league lead. The reason why he's making interceptions because Harrison Smith's doing other shit.
Right.
And the same Eric Kendricks set a record for most pass deflections as a linebacker this past year, but that's because Anthony Barr's on the other side of him helping him out. So I think it all goes down to
Don't
that.
forget 99. Don't forget 99.
Danielle Hunter's there, man. I mean,
The freak.
he's there, but like the thing about him, he can line up anywhere on any team and be dominant. It's not like a scheme thing for him. He's just better than the people next to him. You know what I mean? And which is great. And he might be moving from left side to right side depending on the game, depending on the scheme. We saw him move inside against the Saints and really wreak havoc against Drew Brees, wanting to step up in that pocket in the second half of that playoff game. So I'm excited to see what this defense is going to look like. New names, like you said, we got younger, and it's actually going to open up a lot of money for us next offseason to hopefully sign people like Dalvin Cook and Anthony Harris to long-term deals during this 2020 season.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great recap. I think you're on point with a lot of those. You mentioned the corner play being interchangeable just as much as the ends, which in a cover 2 scheme, it definitely can. So, I like that, and that's why a lot of those things. I think that Zimmer and the new coordinator is going to be able to pull them together. They're guys with experience. They know how to coach. They know how to develop guys. So, let's roll on to the Packers. Let's talk about our most hated, most pathetic team, worst colors in the division.
So Packers. Well, I guess Aaron Rodgers came out and publicly talked, which is weird. Or maybe all quarterbacks have done that now. Maybe it's required in your contract to do an off-season interview or some shit. But obviously he said he was surprised at their first-round pick, but didn't take it personally, yada, yada. So my quote for them is Matt LaFleur, in his second year, is he closer to a Super Bowl run, or did he piss off his MVP and now he's closer to derailing the Packers?
Number two, my lord. Number 2. Oh, you Shrek fans. Or no, is it number 3? I don't know which one it is. But I think he pissed him off. I think Rodgers is moody. I'm trying to be as objective as possible. But I really felt like they should have added some weapons. And not only wide receiver, because that was the obvious one, but I really think they needed some offensive line help. They lost Bulaga. I think they lost another guard. If you don't keep Rodgers happy, and I was more thinking from the run game and the pass blocking, he's going to be, you could see the McCarthy, most amount of throwaways type of thing. It's this is an open throw away. They took a lot of time last year running the ball, a lot more game management, which, is not what you think of when you think Rodgers. They added another right tackle, which I think, wasn't he a Lion before? I forget his name. Wagner or something like that.
Rick Wagner. He played for the Lions last year and the Ravens before that.
Okay, there you go. And then I know they added Devin Funchess, who's a big-bodied guy, which I guess to me, I don't get too excited about him. He wasn't used a whole lot, well, at least not correctly, in Carolina. I think he's probably going to be a red zone guy, kind of like what they were hoping to get out of Jimmy Graham, but obviously different position. And I think that defense, the defense was very opportunistic. They did a lot of game managing as an offense, and they found themselves up by low margins in games. And so, Patine was able to blitz more. I think they saw a lot from Zarius Smith. He did really well. I think it's a Pro Bowl nod. But I don't see a whole lot of people that scare me on either side of the ball other than Rodgers, to be honest. They played a good team game last year. It's hard to consistently do that year in and year out, especially with a young coach. And the biggest thing, Matt LaFleur, you need to get your kid off camera on draft night. If he's going to shun your draft pick, number 1, Jordan Love the little blonde kid going, I don't know what he's doing. No.
Yeah, he's confused.
So I've got them.
Wasn't a good look.
I have them in the dumpster, but I've got them, as an 8-win team. I've got them at 8.5 over under. So this is going to be probably the closest division. I think it's going to be very close to what we see typically out of the NFC East. A lot of 8, 9, 10-win teams, and 3 teams very close.
Well, I didn't see that coming. I think that is a lot of Bears in you to say that the Packers are going to fall from grace and not make the playoffs. They're
But think
13.
about it, it's only a couple of games. It's not.
I
It's not a
mean,
huge. It's not
a
for 2 months.
couple. That's 5 games. You have them losing 5
8.5.
more
Yeah,
games.
4.5.
That's a
Again,
lot.
but here's the thing though. I feel like the whole division had a much easier schedule last year. I
Well,
think
that's true.
even if you could talk about the divisional games, I think they could be 3-3, 4-2. But I don't discount all of the teams that we have to play this year as the North. I mean, we've got Atlanta that could be good, somewhere in the middle, but you could lose a game there. Indianapolis, the Rams, the Saints, the Titans, Houston. I have the Bears and Houston to be the biggest wild cards of the entire league. I feel like both teams could win 6 games or they could win 11 games. Just because we don't know. There's so much unknown about them. They can get
Right.
hot, but I mean, the rest of that too. I mean, granted, okay, you sprinkle in Detroit a couple times. We play Jacksonville. We play the Giants. Oh, and forget, we play the Saints and Tampa Bay. So, I mean, there's a whole lot that can go into that. And I just feel like you can't vote the Packers to win all of those games.
All right. Well, I think you're right there. I mean, the exciting thing this year is, of course, we get to see Aaron Rodgers match up against Drew Brees. We get to see Aaron Rodgers match up against Tom Brady, which is super cool. Obviously, those games are going to be fun games to watch just because it's legends going after it. But my
Very
outlook on the
cool.
Packers are a little different. I think as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy and playing and is the starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, it's his division to lose. I hate to say that, but he's burned me so many freaking times. It's hard to say that he's not. They proved that they can be a balanced team, which they were last year. He still threw
Yep.
30 touchdowns, which I don't think people really understand. Like people are like, oh, he took a step back. He needs more weapons. Yada yada. The dude threw 30 touchdowns last year. Like that's still really good. And then he had like 20 touchdowns on the ground from, or not on the ground, but combined from Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams on the ground and receiving. I think their backfield was super balanced. I really like both these guys. Aaron Jones is the guy I think that they need to use as a workhorse, obviously, to take some pressure off of Aaron Rodgers, just like they did last year, and they'll be just fine. They have the biggest X factor in the division in Aaron Rodgers, and all they need to do is stay in games, and the dude is going to win them games. Um, it's really hard for me to say that they're not going to be a 10, 11, 12 win team. Just because of that, man. I think if you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a shot, and that's all it is. And touching on the defense, I mean, Aaron Rodgers said it after the week 2 or week 3 primetime game. He's like, "Well, we have a defense now," and then that kind of
Yep.
backfired on their next primetime game because they got their ass whooped or something, which is
Bad.
kind of funny. But it's true. Like they finally have like a decent defense that they haven't had since 2010, 2009,
Yeah,
2009
before that, because they weren't even
2009
great then.
when they went to the Super Bowl, they had a decent defense. Um, but I mean, the Smith brothers, even though they're not brothers, but you touched on Za'Darius, but Preston's a stud too, and I don't want to play these guys week 1. No way. Who would want to? But if we can get the monkey off our backs week 1 as a Viking fan and beat those guys, it'd be pretty sweet. I'm chalking them up as 12 wins, man, and winning the
Whoa.
division.
Well, that's
So
gonna be
yeah,
one to watch, man. I don't see it, but that's gonna be one to watch. And I'm trying not to be biased because we both hate the Packers. But I think there's a lot in the schedule, and there's a lot lacking in the roster, to be honest.
so you have the Vikings winning the NFC North, which thank you feels really good. I'd
Yeah, I
really
do.
like that a couple months from now, if the Vikings were even leading the division come our bye week, I'd be pretty pumped. Um, but do you have like a division MVP, some guy, a singular player that would be the MVP for this division, knowing what your predictions are? Is there a guy that would stand out to make that happen?
Yeah, I think the division MVP. I think Khalil Mack's always in the running, but I don't think it's gonna be him. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to, like you were kind of hitting on being the X factor. I think he's the only reason that the Packers are really going to be above 500, if at all. I think he's going to get the glory. I think the Vikings are too well balanced to really have an X factor there. I mean, you could say Cook, but there's a lot to be said about the offensive line and the balance of that offense. So I'm hoping really that the second-year running back is able to spell him for his own sake, so that he's able to play in the playoffs, with the same amount of bursts he does week 3 through 5, that type of thing. So I'm going to go with Rodgers as my long answer there. Just kind of giving more of a well-rounded answer. What do you think? I mean, where are you coming? Really, I mean, division MVP, that's different than league MVP. It's just, who you think about. He got 6 games to shine. I mean, I focus more on the division games for the division MVP than I do for the 17-game weeks for all 4 teams. What do you think?
Totally. Well, how I see it is very similarly. It's hard not to just automatically say Aaron Rodgers, but I really think how I see this shaking out is that Aaron Jones is going to have another phenomenal year, and this guy is going to carry the Packers, carry the load for the Packers. And he'll always be an unsung guy just because he has Aaron Rodgers handing him the ball. But I see a similar season for him next year. He could creep into 20 touchdowns next year and be
20.
stud.
Aaron Jones, 20 touchdowns.
He had 19 last year. He had 19 touchdowns last year.
Oh man, I'm just looking at the defenses that they play. Man, okay.
Dude
all right.
You
think
had
LaFleur's
19
going
touchdowns.
to unlock him even more in year 2? I get year 2. You see progression by a lot of the skill positions in a similar scheme, but 20, that's a lot.
I mean, it could happen. I think I really like the guy. He runs the ball really well, catches the ball out of the backfield. I think he's kind of the MVP.
But that's you're talking $60 in a $200 fantasy league. Are you spending $60 on Aaron Jones?
Oh yeah. I think Aaron Jones is
that's Saquon.
I don't know. We haven't
got McCaffrey money, man.
I'm taking him over Saquon. I'm taking Aaron Jones over Saquon.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe not dollar wise, but like I'd rather have Aaron Jones on my team. I think he's going to be more consistent next year. I mean, they're going to have more opportunities to score the ball just because they have Aaron Rodgers.
So you're saying he's more like your running back 1B in fantasy?
I mean, I mean, I'm not taking him over McCaffrey for any reason, but I don't know why he wouldn't be on your radar as your number 1 running back.
Well, he was on my radar last year as the guy I wanted as my 1B, 2A. So I definitely see the appeal, but 20 touchdowns, man. That's I mean, you got to assume that's going to come with a whole lot of yards with the way they used them last year.
Yeah, I mean,
bold prediction at the least. It's possible. I think with a guy like this, it's definitely.
Am I sitting on that? I didn't think it was that fucking bold. I guess so.
20?
Yeah, man.
2-0?
19 last year, and they didn't even really use the guy at the beginning of the year. Like in fantasy as it goes, the year prior, they're like, why don't you give the ball to Aaron Jones? Every time he touches the ball, he scores a touchdown. Next year, LaFleur comes in, finally starts giving the ball second half of the season, and he explodes for all these touchdowns, all these yards. He had a 4-touchdown game. I understand that. But, like, that could happen.
He had a couple of threes as well.
Yeah, that could easily happen again. Why not? I don't think Aaron Rodgers is at the point right now where he's trying to pad stats. He's totally fine handing the ball off as long as they win the game. So, yeah. I don't need to talk anymore about Aaron Jones. I guess I'm a big Aaron Jones guy.
Good. Let's see it.
Going into the NFC North, or AFC North, excuse me, in reverse order.
Let's talk AFC.
Obviously, they are host to 2 teams that had first overall picks. The Bengals being the first that we're going to talk about. They were 2-14 last year. They ended up getting Joe Burrow. My question to them, or my 1-sentence statement question here is, what changes in the organization need to happen for me to care?
Oh, dude, that is the question. I mean, they suck in the playoffs under Martin Jones. I mean, the Red Rocket, he's a 2nd-round pick out of TCU. I didn't think he was going to be much of anything at all. Most of their success, in my opinion, is from that Zimmer defense. And AJ Green, I mean, I love this dude. Just a stud. Makes every catch, can run every route. Big-bodied guy. Waste of a career. I mean, I just
Well,
I don't see.
I mean,
I hope he did.
as far as wins and losses, maybe, but I mean, he
Well,
was the
no, as far
first
as
receiver
playoff,
ever
as
to
far
go
as playoffs, they're
1,000 yards 7 seasons in a row.
Yeah, but I mean that's fantasy stuff. That's cool numbers. But I mean, I'm talking playoff wins. He's got no playoff pedigree. He's got some clutch moments, but not in the playoffs to win his team games. Where you see Michael Irvin, Jerry Rice, those types of things. So to
So
me,
he's
waste is a strong word, I guess. It's disappointing. I wanted more for the guy. Is probably the better way to say it.
well, I don't know how this works, and I'll look into it later. But he has yet to sign his franchise tender. So if he doesn't at a certain time, that would make him a free agent, right?
Good point. It would, I suppose. Yeah, I forgot all about that. To be honest, I thought he signed it.
So, I mean, all accounts, it sounds like he's going to. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't sign a franchise. You get paid the median price of the top 5 receivers or the top 5 person at the position you play. It seems like a great deal. Kirk Cousins, that's how he ended up on this huge deal with the Vikings. He took 2 franchise tags with the Redskins, then eventually signed this big deal with the Vikings. I think it's a good play for him. It's a win-win for AJ Green for a singular year, and then you figure out what you want to do after that. Obviously, you get a new quarterback, a fresh new toy, and Joe Burrow to play around with. But dude, there's nothing good here to say if you ask me. Coming into this year, obviously they're rebuilding, and they've been rebuilding since maybe 4 or 5 years ago when they made the playoffs 2 or 3 years in a row and had a first round bounce from the playoffs. But they're losing games, and they're losing them bad. I mean, they're losing the games by a margin of 8 or more points. So that's 2 scores
2
a game
possessions.
or more.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're losing games close, which says a lot more. But they do bring in they don't even really bring in anyone. They bring in Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor is their head coach, who's in his second year. He's from the Sean McVay tree. He was the quarterback coach for the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl. I'm not really that excited about this team. It's they got Mac Alexander and Trey Waynes from the Vikings to solidify their corners, but there's really nothing to say here. I think there's fantasy numbers to be had from this team. Joe Burrow's a fun buy. Obviously, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon's a big fantasy guy.
Is he still holding out, or did he sign again? I did not look that up.
I don't know, but he's a big Madden guy. He was tweeting all about the Madden Bowl this weekend, so I'm a Joe Mixon guy. I might draft him just because of that. But that's really all I see here. I don't see any more than 2 to 4 wins.
Well, I'm with you there. I am at a solid 3, 2.5 to be honest, but 3 because they suck more than the Lions, to be honest with you. And I feel bad for Joe Burrow because I want to get excited for the kid, but as a rookie at the quarterback position, I'm a firm believer that you need to sit a year and grow and learn how to not just to play and to read, but how to be an NFL quarterback, and you need a good mentor. He doesn't even have that. So let's move on. Forget it.
Well,
I mean, really.
Well, first off, I disagree on the sitting for a year. I don't think you always need to do that. I think it's obviously worked in the past, worked for our Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes, but I think he's going to be fine and get a lot of experience playing, but it doesn't really mean much. And everybody knows that the Bengals, their struggles aren't always in their coaches or in their players. It's that organization doesn't care enough to even help them out. And the GMs don't do much to bring in good talent and evaluate talent. And that's why they're always going to be losers, unfortunately. I don't know if there's any way around it. I mean, it starts at the top with their owners not willing to bend on a lot of these player ass. And the Bengals still practice outside. Like, what the fuck? Like, get a facility.
Yeah, they're stingy on money. They have the worst cafeteria food in the league, I've heard. They don't pay guys, but it's a shitty town in that it's cold half the year and people don't want to go there because there's no market. So there's no free agency attraction. Their track record is to crumble. So they haven't even done much to beat that stigma. So you've got a young coach from a tree that's unproven. And really, is that your foundation?
I mean, I don't know anything about Zach Taylor, but it's going to be a rough year this year for him. And, those happen and they get shoot on to the next one. Next thing you know, he'll be a quarterbacks coach in 2-3 years and it's not his fault.
Yeah.
It's easier to replace a coach than 53 players. It's easier to replace a coach than an owner.
Right. Well, that's why it's so hard to rebuild a culture, because you just move one piece as opposed to you have to shift
Right.
30 to 50 of them. So
We'll
I
move
think,
on. There's some
yeah,
optimism here.
let's do it.
Maybe I think this is definitely the hot button team going into 2019. Everything was pointing in the right direction for the Browns, but they finished the season 6-10 after bringing all these fancy new weapons. Baker comes off a historic rookie year where he threw 27 touchdowns, which is a rookie record
Yep.
in just 14 games. I got a little anecdote here. Is it the cook or the baker? But ching. I don't even know what that is. But last year's coach was not it, and Freddie Kitchens. They bring in Kevin Stefanski. I'm a Stefanski guy. He was with the Vikings organization for 10 years, I believe. Seems like a great fit for Baker Mayfield. Is he the right guy to whip up the recipes for Baker to succeed? And how do you see the Browns coming into 2020?
Yeah, I think that's actually, you said you didn't know what that means. That's exactly what that means. Can Stefanski bring all the ingredients together for Baker or not? And I think that this system will do the Browns a lot of good, assuming that Stefanski carries over a lot of the Kubiak rules. They've got two good receivers that are not burners. They're not overly well. Odell has proven he can do that, but they're more technical in their skills of route running and catching the ball, which is a lot of what that play action game and that zone run can do. I feel like, statistically, it's not going to be the sexiest of years, but I think there's some more potential here. I think they got better on paper everywhere. Jack Conklin, and they brought in Hooper, and last year they brought a bunch of guys. I think they drafted a tackle. They picked the safety so with the Bears' 43rd pick, we took Cole Kmet. I wanted them to take Grant Delpit or Antoine Winfield. They took Cole Kmet, and then Delpit and Winfield, both safeties, went back to back after that.
Right.
I mean, that's a good way to solidify the back end. Question in the middle of the rant. Myles Garrett's cleared to play, right?
Yeah, he's good to go, man.
Okay. Well, I think there's a lot of potential. I feel like they find another way to blunder and blow the hype again. I think they're a 500 team. I don't give a whole lot of credence to brand new systems, brand new schemes, brand new coaches all in the first year because it looks great on paper and it's all hype. But I just see a 500 team here.
Yeah, I mean, 500 is definitely an upgrade from what they did last year by 2 games.
Because they were, what, 5 or 6? Yeah, 6,
yeah, they're 6-10. They go to 8-8. I mean, it's trending upwards. Baker just took a huge regression in the second year that I quite honestly didn't see. I didn't think the wins and losses would be great for the Browns. Actually, I bet against it.
Sure.
But I didn't see this. I mean, Baker he plays a full 16 games, nicked up here and there, but didn't miss really any time, maybe a couple possessions here and there. But then he regressed to 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions thrown. And I don't know, can you work that out of a quarterback? The year prior, 27 rookie record, 14 picks. Not a terrible season. Once you get into 20 picks thrown, that's scary. They got to be happy with the win that they had last year. They dominated the Ravens in an early one last year in week 4. They scored 40 points on the Ravens. You mentioned some of the free agents they brought in. They also bring in Case Keenum and Adrian Claiborne. I think Keenum's a great pickup for them because it just gives somebody in the quarterback room to have confidence in and chat through stuff with. I think that could mean a lot for Baker in case knows he's going there as the backup, so he's not going to compete for the job. So maybe that can help Baker mature in all facets of his game and really bring him to the next level.
Well, I think really with that point though, bring it to the next level is going to be balance with Stefanski. And if you back to the Kubiak thing, I mean, you think about what happened last year. To me, in the passing game, obviously it's under Freddie Kitchens, the first-year head coach, so he was calling plays before. But I feel like the whole thing's going to be balanced for Baker. Coming out of college, he was known for his charisma and his accuracy. So you've got 2 good receivers. You've got potentially 2 good tight ends, which is Kubiak to a T. but you've also got two good running backs. You've got Chubb and you've got Kareem Hunt. And Kareem Hunt for a full season, well, full off season, if that even counts, I guess. But for a full season, you got two good running backs who are good at two different things. You know, it could all come together. This is a team, you know, you say 8-8, you know, 500, I say that. You can find two more wins in there if, you know, they find the right flow and a good, you know, momentum and chemistry, which they clearly never had last year and sort of struggled with even in his prime rookie year. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of things to get excited about if you're a Browns fan, genuinely excited about. But, you know, I think they find a way to blow it all the same.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either way. If they're 6-10 again next year, or if they're 10-6 next year, it wouldn't surprise me either way. A quick thing about Nick Chubb. I mean, the dude rushed for 1,400 yards last year. I don't think NFC fans really noticed that. They're going to rely a lot on their run game, and they're going to have to. And hopefully Baker can step out of the slump that he had in his second year and really kind of prove himself again. He's a dude that I don't want to touch in fantasy, but a dude that might be an early pickup if he has a couple good games. So who knows? But the reason why it's tough to be a Browns fan is because you got to play these guys and the division leaders. But that's the Steelers, who were 8-8 last year after their statue of a quarterback in Big Ben went down early. I think it's a miracle that they went 8-8 after Big Ben goes down and all the injuries that they had. There's so much going on. Mike Tomlin deserves so much credit for the season he had. He had a chance to win it, to not win the division, but win a playoff berth, and went 0-3 in his last three games, which is tough, one of them being against the Jets, which definitely sucks. But he gets Big Ben back. Big Ben just put out a promo video of him throwing the ball around and looking good, trimming up the beard. I think they get back to Steelers football this year. I'm going to ask you, last year was a fall off. Is this year another fall off, or do they get back to Steelers football?
I think they get back to Steelers football. I think, you know, Big Ben's the guy that makes this whole thing tick. But enough can't be said about Tomlin. I mean, last year to get Duck Delvin and some other guy, Hodges, you know, to produce a couple of wins. A lot of that obviously produced by the young, the speedy, the aggressive, tenacious defense. That's what's got me the most excited. I mean, watching those guys fly around last year, it's like chicken with their head cut off, like just reckless abandon, making plays, ripping the ball out, making hits. You know, I think Big Ben's going to love a tight end in Ebron too, the free agent from the Colts. It's one thing he hasn't had a little bit. But back to the Tomlin thing, I mean, you see the way that things are playing out for the 3 Bs, right? Big Ben was hurt. Brown went psychotic. And Bell got shipped out and free agent and signed with the Jets and didn't produce. There's something in the water there that Tomlin is serving up, whether it's Mike Jordan's secret stuff or whatever. He finds a way to get these guys to play one way or the other. So I think, you know, they're going to be better than the Browns. I think they're going to take second in the division. I think they're going to be a 9-win team, give or take a game or so. Schedule is decent. I think they make the playoffs, especially in this new 7-team seed or 7-team seed in the playoffs. I think for sure.
They were the first team out this past year even.
Yeah, they would have made the playoffs last year as the 7 seed if the structure was there. You're correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think they have studs all over the place. Obviously, picking up Micah Fitzpatrick for a first-round pick from Miami last year was huge for their defense. He just fit right in right away. T.J. Watt was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Big Ben comes back. Their running game last year was atrocious, but I think that has a lot to do with who's at quarterback and being able to key on the run, knowing that you're not going to be able to get beat deep. But Big Ben is such a good deep ball thrower that he moves some people back. Juju Smith is a stud. They drafted a dude who I was really surprised about that they drafted. They drafted Chase Claypool in the second round. He's a 6'4", like 240 wide receiver for Notre Dame. Yep. And I started looking back just in my head. I didn't even really look, but I don't think Big Ben's ever had a dude like this on the outside. Obviously, Big Ben's a traditional quarterback who loves his tight ends, and every big Steelers team ever has had a really great receiving tight end. But has he ever had a dude who's 6'4", 240? Like, this is going to be fun to watch. This might be a Big Ben that we've never seen before. He's very much known for giving his guys chances and opportunities on the outside. Now he has a body that's going to be bigger than any cornerback he matches up with.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, so you've got Juju, you've got Washington, and I forget the other guy's name. They're both little speedy guys, shifty guys. But you think about it, that's where Big Ben has made his money on. He's had a couple of big tight ends in the past, Jesse James, Heath Miller, and before that on the Super Bowl team was I forget his name. Regardless, and then you have Emmanuel Sanders, you have Antonio Brown, these guys that are under 5'10" for sure, shifty little guys. So I think it fits the player prototype mold that he's used to. We'll see if some of that veteran experience can really bring that all together, because although it's new names, new guys, I think he's going to be able to throw some guys open as he's been able to do. He likes taking risks on the deep ball, which they've proven they could do last year, even with the guys hurt. Whether they complete it or not, they still took the shots. So I think that's going to keep the defenses more even, like you mentioned, as opposed to stacking against the run against James Conner and their second running back as well.
Yeah, I agree. I feel really good about this team. I think they're quite possibly a 10-win team, and definitely a wild card spot for me.
Same here.
It's good that we agree on something. We'll move on to the team. We'll move on to the team that I think is the favorite to win the first seed in the AFC. I'll say it right now. But the question to you is, the Ravens at 14-12 last year set a record for most rushing yards by a team in a singular season, and Lamar and Mark Ingram didn't even play Week 17. So they did it in 16 games, basically. Do they go back-to-back one seed, or do they bust a little this year? And I hate using the word bust, but a bust is just falling off from what they did last year.
Yeah, we can call it a regression, but yeah, I think they don't win as many games. I think they're a 12-win team, mostly because this whole coronavirus thing with no offseason, it's hard to do, especially losing Marshall Yanda, that milestone right guard, to retirement. I mean, he's been a road grader. But yeah, no, they're definitely number one seed in the division, number one seed in the conference, in my opinion. We'll talk about some potential teams in the next couple of episodes about who might challenge them for that spot. But, I mean, really, you've got a foundation for a system that works. Not only can they ground and pound, wear you out as a defense, but they got a couple guys who can take shots. I think Lamar, well, we all know Lamar's a stud. So let me flip it to you. I asked this previously. I want to give you a chance to double down on your answer. With the Madden selection for the Madden cover, do you stick with your answer that this Madden cover selection is the booster, or do you have a chance to wiggle out and say it could be a curse with injury, regression, etc., the fall from grace?
All right, so I'm not saying anything yet because it's too early. As far as my predictions for the Super Bowl, every year I make a predictions who's going to be in the Super Bowl and who's going to win it. But if you had to ask me right now, the Ravens are the team who's going to be in the Super Bowl in the AFC. And that is off the back of Lamar Jackson, 100%. People think that they have a full season of film on him now, that they're going to stop him. No. The dude averaged 6 point some yards a carry. Both his running backs averaged like 5.5 to 6 yards a carry each.
Yep.
That's not just good running. That's excellent running. That's three
Dominant.
dudes over 5 yards a carry on your team. Like, if you figure that out in a year, good for you. More power to you. And they were going to beat the Titans if it wasn't for, I think they went 0-3 or 0-4 on fourth down conversions, which they didn't do all year. They didn't do that all year last year. Get shut out on fourth down conversion. So this is my team to win the AFC. Maybe not necessarily win the Super Bowl, because it's hard to obviously bet against Patrick Mahomes, but I think they're going to be the number one seed again next year. Their margin of victory says a lot to me. They were the highest scoring team last year, and their margin of victory was 13.7 which is basically they're beating people by 2 touchdowns
Yeah.
all year. I mean, only 2 losses, one being the Kansas City Chiefs and one being the Browns, like we talked about earlier. So um, with Tom Brady out of the division, I really think it's a
Out of the
two-horse race.
conference.
Out of the conference, excuse me. It's a two-horse race with Mahomes and Lamar, and it's the next Brady Manning. It really is, and I'm not taking them
Yes.
over. I think the Ravens have a better team, but the Chiefs have a better quarterback or a better playmaker at this point. But I think they're neck and neck, and I think the Ravens get the nod. Just because their offense is so consistent, they don't have to rely on big plays to win. They can just ground and pound you out and just wear teams down. So I really like them to go back-to-back number 1 seed. They're just super fun to watch. Outside of Lamar, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. I mean, it's amazing to watch his plays, but what they can do for running the ball and how they manipulate the run game is pretty unbelievable. For somebody who's a casual fan says, "Oh, people are going to figure it out," it's like, good luck. It's confusing now.
It
You never
is.
know where they're going to run the ball. I mean, they put RG3 in the backfield a couple of times, which I'm not saying is why they're historically great or anything, but Vegas has them as 11.5 win team. They're the highest Vegas odds right now, and I agree with Vegas. I would hit the over on 11.5, which is tough. Like it's nice to bet an under when it's that high, but I really do see this team getting 12, 13, 14 wins again.
Oh, 100%. And I know you wouldn't commit, but it sure sounds like you're saying Madden booster over Madden curse over there. So,
Yeah, I mean, you win the MVP, then you win the Super Bowl MVP. You win the MVP, Madden cover, Super Bowl MVP. That's the new one. So when Kirk wins the MVP this year, I'm going to be pretty pumped because he's going to get the Madden cover and then win the Super Bowl the next year.
this guy, bold statements. I love it. So, all right, what else you got? I think you wanted to talk about. Well, no, actually, that's a good segue. Let's jump into the 3 because I think this will be a fun conversation.
Well, before we do that, I think you got to award a division MVP for the AFC North.
Good point. Yeah.
Obviously, from my little rant there, it's hard not to say Lamar Jackson. I mean, I think he is in the category of Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, not the touted of winning a Super Bowl yet, but he's just a dude that you can't count out, and he's the guy. It'd be fun to say Big Ben, and Big Ben could be that guy, but I think this is Lamar Jackson's division for years to come because, Big Ben's on his way out, and Joe Burrow, I guess, but there's nothing here scaring me to say that Lamar Jackson might run this town for 10 years. So.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. I thought the MVP was a foregone conclusion after your previous rant. In that Lamar Jackson, even if he takes a 30% cut, he's still got better stats than anybody in the division, not the conference, but the division. So even with the regression, I still think he's MVP.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll move on to the 3 as you were about to allude to. I'll let you break it down for us if you would like, but before we break down what we're actually talking about, the 3 is our segment to end our podcast. It's the 3 of anything. We try and give it a topic and try and break it down to the best we know how. So the 3 is just kind of, it could be bold predictions. It could just be statements. It could be something fun to talk about. This one's pertaining to the divisions, and Jason, take it away.
Yeah, so we kind of talked before this, and we wanted to focus on a little bit of fantasy football here. So we're not going to go with the obvious picks. We're going to go with some of the value guys, the very fantasy guys. Luke and I have been perennial PPR $200 auction league guys
That's
for
right.
the better part of a decade at this point, right?
Well, I've been playing for at least 15 years. We brought you into the league maybe in 2011, so 2011, 2012. So you've been in there for a while now.
Yeah, it's been a thing. So that's kind of the mindset that we have going into this, just more with the PPR auction than ADPs of your snake drafts type of thing. But yeah, so with that, we were focusing on the value players, the guys that we think are going to outperform their draft slot or their draft dollar value. Number 1, little out of left field here. I know I dogged on them in the north of the NFC But I think the Detroit Lions have T.J. Hawkinson going to be one of those guys who's going to outperform his value. It doesn't have to be sexy. He's not going to put up Kelsey or, Jimmy Graham of old numbers. But I think really a second-year tight end has a chance to really take off. And I think he's going to be good for about 5 catches, 5 yards, and like 2/3 of a touchdown. Which you think about it in a PPR league, that's 10 points and just catches and yards around maybe 11, and then half a touchdown. It could be something fun.
Right. Well, I think that's a fun one to do because I agree with you. I think Hawkinson's going to be awesome if he can stay healthy, number one, and Stafford can stay healthy. And the tight end position doesn't have a second tier, if you ask me. It has a first tier, and if you get those guys, you're happy. But there's really no second tier that's reliable. So if you can get a reliable second tier guy, him and his buddy Noah Fant are definitely guys that I'm looking at to be second tier tight ends come draft day. I like that one.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. I mean, you've got Kelsey, Kittle, maybe Ertz. And then after that, I mean, even if Hunter Henry is healthy, might be the only guy in tier 2. But then everybody else is like boom or bust, tier 3, tier 4, 100%.
Right. There's no one there that's reliable, and that's kind of what you're looking for out of those guys. Like the Jason Wittens, he was never like a tier 1 fantasy guy, but he was an amazing tier 2 guy because he would get you those catches and only score like 2 touchdowns a year. But I mean,
9 points, 11 points, 14 points. Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't get 0 like David Njoku every other fucking week. So,
tough.
I like that.
So then, how about this? Do you want to go AFC, NFC, or do you want me to go all 3?
Yeah, let's bang them out. So you gave your one, I'll give my one. AFC North value picks. This one's a little different than yours. I mean, they're all a little different, I guess, but I'll explain them. But mine is for the Baltimore Ravens. They brought another halfback into the situation here. Another guy to sub in. Gus Edwards had 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. Mark Ingram had 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns or whatever it was. And obviously Lamar Jackson had like 1,300 yards rushing. But they get a stud of an athlete, a really jack of all trades, running back from Ohio State, J.K. Dobbins as a rookie out of the draft. And I see him – I think rookies' value are high to begin with. But I think he's flying under the radar just because he wasn't drafted as high as Edwards-Helaire or as DeAndre Swift, or even Jonathan Taylor for that matter.
Right.
So he's kind of flying under the radar as far as rookies go as the 4th fantasy rookie based on draft position. And I think he's a buy. He's a straight-up buy. You don't draft this guy to not play him. And he's going to fit right into this offense so perfectly. I mean, there's times where they put 3 running backs on the field, so he's going to see the field even though he's not going to be the starter. I like J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. I mean, I didn't love him as a first rounder, but I think where the Ravens took him fits him just right. And in that scheme, he's got a chance to be a solid contributor, 100%. I think that's going to be the great bench flex guy, down the stretch there for a lot of fantasy teams.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking handcuffs too, like if Ingram if said Ingram goes down, I mean, now this is your guy, and he's has the ability to outproduce someone like Ingram because I think he has that breakaway speed to get those long 80-yard touchdowns, which Ingram kind of this late in the season doesn't really have. He's more, electric burst with 20, 30-yarders. But J.K. Dobbins might be able to take the top off in the run game. So I really like him, super electric player. But we'll go to your second in the NFC North. I'm excited to hear after T.J. Hawkinson threw me off guard.
Yeah, buddy. Well, this one's not going to throw you. So, I mean, you think about fantasy and the kind of the rule of thumb is you always take a rookie running back before you take a rookie wide receiver, just because the position's been proven not to produce in the first year. There's a lot more technique and technical to learn. But with that, I'm taking a guy that I think is a little bit more pro-ready as far as his route running, his catching, his playmaking ability. Is your guy. I'm taking Justin Jefferson. I think not
Wow.
only with his preparation in the LSU system, that the fact that he could run a lot of routes from the slot, I
I
think
can
he
talk
fits
about
the
him, no
mold.
problem.
I know, right? It's going to be easy. I think, this is one, I'm trying to be objective, but I think really he's pro ready. He's kind of like a mini Keenan Allen, but I also feel that he is one of the best fits for a wide receiver that got drafted by a team that runs a certain style. And being that, we saw that the Vikings are good at play action, take pressure off the quarterback, buy some time for these more developing, complicated routes, whereas route technician, which they have in Diggs, they used to have, and in Thielen, I feel like he can probably fit that role a little bit closer to some of these other guys that are used to just making big plays, simplified route trees and, college ball, that type of thing. I know he plays the North, which some good corners, but I feel like with a quarterback that knows the system, if they keep that system from Stefanski to Kubiak, I feel like he could fit in pretty seamlessly, to be honest with you. And not to say that he'll match Diggs' production, but like I said, even in previous episodes, I think it was a lateral move more so than a regression at the wide receiver position for the Vikings. And Diggs and Thielen are, usually your wide receiver 1B. So this guy could be a 2A, I think, which is not a bad step down for a first-year guy, but a bold statement, in my opinion, for a rookie wide receiver in fantasy football.
Hey, I like it. I kind of feel the same way when I was looking at the NFC or the NFC North when it comes to fantasy, and really what you're looking at, especially all these rookie wide receivers. I mean, there's 10 of them that you could really choose from, so their value to begin with in drafts are really low.
Right.
I think there's none of them that super stand out because you just really never know. It's the biggest question mark ever, and you throwing the dart at the board and hoping it hits triple 20s.
Yeah.
But that's I don't think that's what we're getting here. I think you're getting consistent here. So you're hitting maybe a double 20, I guess, or just a single 20. You got to be happy with that. Hitting the game of cricket. But what I see from him is 60 to 70 catches and 6 or 7 touchdowns. And if that's the case, great. And if he's a standard deviation better than that, now you're getting a guy for really cheap, really late in the draft, who can step in and be your number 2 guy who's consistent. So I think that's a great pick. I'm super pumped to see his production come the fall. And
yeah, I think that's someone that everybody in the division will be watching. Honestly, it's gonna be a sneaky, scary guy. I hope not, but I'd also like to be right. So we'll see. Where'd you see AFC North number 2 at?
I don't think this one is. I think the guys that we've done before are more like diamonds in the rough type guys, super under the radar guys. This is a value pick because of the production that he had last year, and him just naturally falling down boards because of the numbers that he put up last year. This is a guy who had he had 111 catches the year prior and just 42 last year, and that's Juju Smith-Schuster. He with Big Ben's full season, I think it was his rookie year, his sophomore year, had an amazing year and really proved that he could lead the offense as a number 1 receiver, even though Antonio Brown was there.
Right.
I think he gets back to 100 some catches because Big Ben loves throwing those little screen passes too, and that just adds up. He's a big body guy who can break tackles and get you extra yards after the catch. And now that Antonio Brown isn't going to get those little, I hate using RPOs, but they really are RPOs. It's just a run pass option when Big Ben's like, you know what, they're playing off coverage. I'm just going to dump it over here and see if he can get 6 yards for us. And now he's going to be that guy to get those receptions in PPR. I love Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's a number 1 receiver in fantasy, but he won't be a number receiver on your boards. I think he falls around 20 to 25, 20 to 30 on your list just because his numbers last year weren't that great. And the guys around him are going to help him out. Ebron and this Chase Claypool are going to help him out because they're additional weapons to take pressure off of him. I really like to see Juju here as a value pick come draft time.
So in our terms, what does that put you at? I mean, $30, $35, $25?
Yo, I see him going like $20 right now.
20?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the tough thing. I think when we can break down draft strategies later in a different video, but when you're doing auction drafts, when you look at the big board and it shows the dollar value next to a guy, that dollar value doesn't say how much he's going to go for in your draft. That dollar value says how much he would cost if he was the first player to come off, like the first name to come off the board. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the 30th name for wide receivers to come off the board, and that's where you find the values because everybody already spent money on these big guys. He's going to fall down into this, like, it's happened with Larry Fitzgerald like the last 5-10 years. But people just forget that he's a 1,000-yard receiver, and that's what's going to happen with Juju. He's going to fall all the way down. You're going to get him for fucking cheap, man. Cheap.
Well, good. Hope you get him.
I don't know if he's my guy. I'm just saying that's a great value
pick. Think about it for a bargain that low that you're touting. I mean, you might as well, right?
Well, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just saying I think he's a value.
Well, I think we got one guy in our league that's going to snipe him for about $40. So we know who that is. All right, let me do my one, and we'll do your one, and we'll wrap up here. I've got mine, and again, no bias. I'm taking a Bears guy. I'm taking Allen Robinson. In our league the last couple of years, he's fallen, and I liked him a lot with Jacksonville. He put up decent numbers. I think he has the potential to be a wide receiver one. I think on your boards, he's going to be everybody's wide receiver two. I think last year in our league, what do you go for? $10, $12 maybe at most.
What Juju's going to go for?
Yeah. Well, okay, sure, fine. Take that because, big body receiver makes all the possession catches, can run all the routes, but doesn't have the breakaway speed, can take the hits, contested catches. I think he's going to go for a little bit more than that. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 2A, 2B on a lot of rosters, depending on what the first round of spending kind of reaps. But I feel like even if the Bears get marginally better, up to average quarterback play, the distribution is going to be so much better. I think they're going to find more weapons, more windows for their weapons, it being Allen Robinson that way. Non-biased, but he put up a great year last year and way outperformed his draft value.
I actually have his stats right here, and it's crazy to think that these stats aren't good enough to be a top 10 receiver in fantasy because there's big names at receiver now, and they only get bigger when Tom Brady goes to play with Godwin and Mike Evans.
Let's hear him.
But this guy, Allen Robinson, had 98 catches, 1,100 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And if you think Nick Foles is going to play with him, or if you think Nick Foles is starting week 1 or eventually starting, he's proven that he loves big-bodied guys, obviously, in his road to the Super Bowl with Alshon Jeffrey. I love Allen Robinson too. I completely agree that I think he's being slept on because people are flair for the dramatic and love the big names. When you look at his stats compared to these guys who they're going to draft for $20 more, and you're going to get the same production. You just don't get the wow value because he's playing with the Bears, which is fine.
100%.
Doesn't matter. It's got to add up to wins.
I mean, depending how you go. I mean, if you go double running back or running back tight end, this might be the third or fourth guy that you take on your roster because he fits, but I'm sure he's going to outproduce that. So borderline wide receiver one, maybe, because you've only got, you don't have 10 guys that can put up numbers better than that, but you've probably got 6 or 7. So speaking of ones, who's your one AFC North?
Well, I do like the Allen Robinson take, and I think that's exactly where he fits in. Is if you go running back or running back Lamar Jackson, Allen Robinson is a guy that can definitely fit into that that wide receiver one spot for a huge value for you. So it's all about how you draft, and he could definitely be a wide receiver one for somebody who does Saquon, Lamar Jackson. Oh shit, what do I do for a wide receiver now? And he could kind of be that guy. My number one, which I don't know if this is super fair, but it's the same kind of feeling that I have with Juju. Not even with Juju. Maybe Allen Robinson's a different, the same kind of feeling because I think he gets slept on because he played with a shitty team last year. But that's Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb rushed for 1,400 yards last year and had 39 catches. He's going to be the focal point in Stefanski's offense. They're going to hand him the ball to help out Baker. He's going to score more touchdowns than he did last year. And he's currently not valued as a top-tier running back. Knowing that the running back position is the most injury-prone position in fantasy, if your auction draft strategy is not to get a top 5 guy because you don't want to spend the money for it, this is your running back 1 for value. And that's what I mean by value, because you got your McCaffreys, Dalvin Cook's kind of up there now, obviously Saquon, Zeke. There's guys that are up there, and this guy sits right on the fringe, and he's the backside of RB1 value. And maybe if you want to go big running backs, he could be your RB2 for value. I really like where he's fitting in drafts, or at least in my rankings early, to be a guy that, oh shit, I missed out on the guy that I wanted. I can pick Nick Chubb and be happy because he's produced in the 2 years he's been there, and he's going to produce again under Stefanski.
You know, I like that a lot. It's something where the way that you talk about it makes me feel like he could be, you've got the OC, you've got the type of style, you've got some of the things we talked about to be similar to that of Dalvin Cook. Maybe not as explosive, but, I see him there in the same slot that you're talking about. I think I have him a little bit closer to like the Derrick Henry type mold, just because he's not as explosive in the pass game or like the one-step burst to completely just destroy a seam if he hits it. But yeah, I'd be comfortable if he was my second running back on a 2 running back team, or my first running back on a wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, whatever conglomerate you got there. I'm with you there. I like it. I wasn't thinking it, but I definitely see it.
Yeah, it's not really the most fair choice for me, but when I see values, that's how I see value. Somebody's just going to outperform at the position that they're currently at in the rankings, and I think his name just like blew my mind. That like, oh shit, a dude who ran for 1,400 yards, like that could lead the league some years. 1,400 yards.
It's not sexy too,
and he might not even be a top 10 running back in an auction draft, which is crazy. So that's why I feel for him. And I don't know if he's a guy who I want on my team just because I like high-powered guys on high-powered offenses, which the Browns could be. I mean, that's what they were supposed to be last year. We didn't see that, but he's definitely a dude to look out for come draft time. But that's really all we got for today. We broke down the NFC North, the AFC North. The Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be a purple on purple Super Bowl. Vikings, Ravens, it's going to be great. Yep, that's all I got.
Oh, man, there's a phrase from the 80s. Super Bear, Super Bowl. Dude, just give me some football. Come on. I need some real football here. I cannot wait. I hope the schedule goes as played. I hope if there's going to be a delay, I hope we find a way that the league gets it going anyway. Let's just watch some games, man. I need the sport. It's my favorite. Got to have it.
Yeah, it's going to happen on schedule. I'm keeping a positive mind about it. I'm really excited to break down the rest of these because, quite honestly, I've never really looked at a team outside of the Vikings before trying to like understand what they are and understand the additions and subtractions that they had and make up my mind about teams that don't fucking matter like the Bengals. But we're gonna our next 3 are gonna break down the South, East, and West of each conference, and we're excited to bring that to you guys. We're going to follow this same format for the next couple, and then probably break down some fantasy after that. I'm going to start working on my own rankings, which I've never done before. I think, Jason, you'll do the same, or we can kind of go in together on it, which would be even more fun, I think, if we went together on it.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
And that's kind of what we're looking at. That's the 53 podcast, the 53 presents. This has been NFC and AFC North breakdowns and predictions. We're excited to get you more in the coming days. So thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, 100%. Hope you liked it. Like and subscribe. Bring some chat to us. Let us know what you want to hear, and let's do it again because, I mean, we're the more we do it, the more we love it. So appreciate it.